Ada for tricking my parents into signing their house over to me and shredding the check instead of paying off my brother's debt. My mom didn't even say happy birthday. On my birthday, she slid a $500,000 check from my grandpa across the dining table and said, "Sign it over to Brandon or you're not walking out of here." When I didn't reach for the pen, my dad got up, turned the deadbolt, and held his phone out. It was a photo of our porch taken from a black sedan in the driveway, two guys inside, just sitting there. They said Brandon had a gambling debt and the people he owed had followed him home. My mom kept tapping the edge of the check with one fingernail while my dad hovered near the door like he was guarding it. There was a sad grocery store cupcake next to my plate with one unlit candle, and nobody had bothered to light it. I remember thinking, this is the closest thing to a birthday they've given me in years, and it comes with threats. Brandon is my younger brother, and my parents have always treated him like the emergency. Years ago, I got a $185,000 insurance settlement after a truck hit my car and shattered my leg. My mom held my hand and told me, "You're too young to manage that kind of money. We'll put it somewhere safe for you." Not long after, Brandon got in serious trouble, and my parents suddenly had cash for lawyers and repairs while I was still juggling physical therapy and school. Once I worked in auditing, I traced the transfers and realized my settlement had been drained to cover his messes. So when they tried to force me to hand him another $500,000, I didn't scream. I said if I endorsed a check that large to Brandon, the bank would flag it and hold it for extra review, and that didn't help anyone that night. My mom snapped, "Family helps family," like that was the end of the discussion. I kept wondering if they were actually scared for Brandon, or just scared of losing the house they'd poured my money into. I told them the fastest way to keep the house safe was to temporarily transfer it into an LLC, then deal with Brandon's debt once things cooled down. I pulled my laptop closer, opened a deed form, and talked fast on purpose. Because panic makes people grab the first plan that sounds official. My mom watched my hands instead of my face, like she was afraid I'd change my mind. That's when I realized they didn't want my opinion, they wanted my signature. My dad hesitated and asked why I was even helping. Before I could answer, my mom grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave crescent marks. She leaned in and said, "If you don't do this, I'll call 911 and tell them you're having a psychotic break." Then she started listing things from my past, like she'd been saving them for later. My dad didn't tell her to stop. Looking back, that's when something in me shut off. So I played along. That night, I booked a remote notary slot and pulled up a quitclaim deed transferring their house to an LLC that I controlled. I told them it was temporary and that it would transfer back later. They didn't read a word, they just scrolled until they saw the signature boxes. The notary came on video, checked IDs, and asked the basic questions while my parents nodded over and over. When the approval screen popped up, my mom actually exhaled like we'd fixed Brandon. Right after, my mom held her hand out and said, "Give me the check." I walked into their office, turned on the shredder, and fed the $500,000 check through it. The shredder actually jammed for a second, and I pushed it through until it grabbed. My dad yelled. My mom went pale, and I finally said it out loud. They'd already taken $185,000 from me once, and I wasn't funding Brandon again. I told them if they wanted to sue, I could explain to a judge why they locked me in a room to force a transfer and why my mom threatened a false mental health call to get it done. I filed the deed the next morning and started the eviction process like any other property transfer. I kept everything in writing and had notices served properly because I didn't want this to turn into a screaming match on a sidewalk. My parents ended up in a motel, and Brandon started leaving me angry voicemails I didn't answer. A while later, at 2:14 a.m., my old apartment camera alerted motion detected, and it was Brandon with a tire iron, prying my door like he expected cash to be stashed there. I called the non-emergency line and police showed up while he was still there. The house sold not long after, and my grandpa later wrote me another check for the same amount, this time made out to my business instead of me personally.